The change in Istanbul's status of Hagia Sophia Museum has got a strong reaction from around the world.
Istanbul, January 2020. Picture this. You're a construction worker descending into darkness beneath one of the world's most famous buildings. Hagia Sophia, 1,500 years old. The tunnel's so narrow you have to crawl on your hands and knees. Your headlamp cuts through the blackness, and then you see it. Mud. Everywhere. 4 tons of sediment packed into passages no one's entered for centuries. You start clearing it out, hour after hour, day after day. Then your shovel hits something solid. Stone. Carved stone. You brush away the mud. A doorway appears, leading to a chamber you squeeze through. 3 rooms, underground tomb, marble floors in 2 colors. Your supervisor arrives, takes one look. Stop digging. Call the archaeologists. Why? Because what you just found is 400 years older than the building above you. 4th century, from before Hagia Sophia even existed. And it's just the beginning. Over the next months, they mapped 668 meters of tunnels beneath Hagia Sophia. Another 268 meters blocked by debris, burial chambers, secret passages, underground vaults, and evidence of something else, something the Turkish government hasn't discussed publicly. Because beneath the world's most controversial building lies proof of the greatest art heist in history. This is the story of what archaeologists found beneath Hagia Sophia, the discoveries the public wasn't supposed to see, and why some historians believe certain findings should remain buried. Let's start with what happened in 1204. April 12th, Constantinople. Crusader soldiers smash through the seawalls. Now, they're supposed to be reclaiming Jerusalem from Muslims, right? Fighting in the Holy Land. Instead, they attack the largest Christian city on earth, the Fourth Crusade, led by Venice, backed by the Pope, targeting fellow Christians. Why? Money? The Byzantine Empire owed Venice. The Crusaders needed transport. Politics twisted a holy war into a robbery. For 3 days, they sacked Constantinople, and their main target? Hagia Sophia, the greatest church in Christendom, built 537 AD, Emperor Justinian's masterpiece. When Justinian finished it, he reportedly said, "Solomon, I have surpassed thee," comparing himself to King Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. For 900 years, Hagia Sophia was the largest cathedral in the world. Its dome, 107 feet in diameter, rising 180 feet, was an engineering miracle. Nothing matched it until St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, centuries later. The interior glittered. Gold mosaics covered the upper walls and dome, marble revetment on floors and lower walls, 40 different types of marble. Purple porphyry from Egypt, green marble from Thessaly, white marble from Proconnesus. Columns plundered from ancient pagan temples across the empire, and the treasures. For 900 years, emperors and pilgrims brought sacred relics, gifts from rulers, donations from the wealthy, artifacts from across the Christian world. Hagia Sophia became, essentially, a museum of Christianity's greatest relics. One visitor in 1200 AD described seeing Emperor Constantine's crown hanging above the altar, set with precious stones and pearls. Other imperial crowns hung around the ciborium, 30 smaller crowns suspended as offerings. The altar itself sat on pillars and sanctuary made of gold and silver. The high altar glowed, multiple precious metals fused together, creating a multicolored, shimmering effect. Now, picture Crusader soldiers entering this. April 1204. 3 days of looting. Crusaders storm through the doors. Horses drink from the marble baptistery. A prostitute sits on the patriarch's throne, singing. They strip the high altar, silver, gold, precious stones. The altar was crafted from multiple metals fused together, a multicolored masterpiece. The Crusaders hack it into pieces, easier to divide the loot. 40 golden chalices from the altar, gone. The silver chancel screen that separated the sanctuary, cut into chunks. The ciborium, the tower above the altar made of solid silver resting on 4 silver arches, destroyed. Inside the altar, the Crusaders expect treasure. The Novgorod Chronicle claims they found 40 barrels of gold, probably exaggerated, but something was there. Crown of Thorns. Jesus' crown from the crucifixion, taken. Fragments of the true cross, taken. The holy lance that pierced Christ's side, taken. The Virgin Mary's veil, taken. Pieces of Jesus' burial shroud, taken. Priceless mosaics pried from walls, shipped to Venice. The 4 bronze horses from the Hippodrome, stolen. They're still on St. Mark's Basilica in Venice today. Nikitas Choniates, a Byzantine historian, watched it happen. He wrote, "They gave the sacred vessels over to common use. They smashed the icons. They lit the lamps and drank from the chalices. One report says Crusaders sat eating stewed ox backbone, using sacred objects as tables and chairs. The spiritual value meant nothing, only the gold mattered. When it ended, Hagia Sophia was gutted. 900 years of accumulated treasures, religious relics collected from across the Christian world. Gone in 3 days. The bronze horses sit in Venice. The Crown of Thorns went to France. King Louis IX bought it from the Crusaders. Sainte-Chapelle in Paris was built specifically to house it. The Virgin's Veil ended up in Chartres Cathedral. Fragments of the True Cross scattered across Europe, Bruges, Rome, Paris. Today, if you visit European cathedrals, you're looking at stolen property from 1204. The Byzantine Empire never recovered. In 1261, the Greeks retook Constantinople, but the empire was broken. 192 years later, 1453, the Ottomans conquered the city. Hagia Sophia became a mosque, and for 567 years, nobody excavated beneath it until 1935. Hagia Sophia had just become a museum. Turkey's first President Mustafa Kemal Ataturk secularized it. German archaeologist Alphonse Maria Schneider arrives in Istanbul, January 27, 1935. He begins digging in Hagia Sophia's western garden. Within 2 weeks, newspapers report discoveries, marble columns, foundations, mosaics, from an earlier church, the Theodosian Hagia Sophia, built 415 AD. Destroyed in riots 532 AD. Justinian built the current Hagia Sophia on top of its ruins. Schneider excavates for 4 years, 1935 to 1939. He finds polychrome mosaics just inside the portico, geometric patterns, carved decorations, rich Theodosian-era designs, a frieze with 12 lambs representing the 12 apostles. Fragments showing this earlier church had colorful floor mosaics and external sculptures, unlike Justinian's version, which kept mosaics inside. Then Schneider discovers something strange. The church sits atop a road, 8 meters wide, meaning the original Hagia Sophia was built over an ancient pagan temple site. The excavation transforms the garden into an open-air museum. Columns, capitals, architectural blocks displayed in the courtyard. Some artifacts go to Istanbul Archaeological Museum, but Schneider has to stop. Digging deeper risks structural damage to the Justinianic building above. Parts of his trenches remain uncovered today. You can still see the Theodosian foundations. World War II breaks out. The excavation ends. Schneider publishes his findings in 1941 in Berlin. Then, 80 years of nothing. 2020. Turkey reconverts Hagia Sophia from museum back to mosque. Controversial. UNESCO objects. Greece protests. The Orthodox world condemns it. But something else happens. Quietly. The Turkish Ministry of Culture launches a cleaning project. Target? The underground structures. Professor Hasan Firat Diker leads the effort. Member of Hagia Sophia Scientific Committee. His team's been studying the underground for 5 years. 3D mapping, architectural visualization, ground-penetrating radar. What they find is massive. A network of tunnels, chambers, vaults, tombs, stretching approximately 1 kilometer around and beneath Hagia Sophia. 668 meters accessible. Another 268 blocked by debris. Some tunnels so narrow you have to crawl. Even breathing is difficult. The passages are dark, damp, temperature controlled naturally by the earth. Perfect preservation conditions. These aren't escape routes or secret passages. They're infrastructure. Water pipes, drainage, ventilation, terracotta pipes running through passages. Climate control from 500 years ago. Think about that engineering. 6th century, no modern tools, no electric lights. Workers crawled through these spaces in total darkness, installing pipe systems, creating drainage networks, building ventilation shafts. The Roman and Byzantine engineers understood something crucial. A building this massive needs to breathe, moisture control, air, circulation, temperature regulation. Without it, the structure deteriorates, mosaics crack, marble splits, foundations weaken. So they built this entire underground network, connecting different points beneath the structure, creating what experts call the lifelines of Hagia Sophia. Passages link the main building to the courtyard areas. One major space sits beneath what used to be an 18th century colonnaded courtyard, now gone, but the basement remains, 2 meters below the northwest facade garden. Original atrium infrastructure spaces. Due to sloped terrain, these areas served practical purposes for the original Justinian church. Today, they're among the easiest underground spaces to access. Workers who've entered describe the experience, entering one passage, following it, finding it opens into another chamber. That chamber connects to another tunnel. That tunnel branches, like veins beneath the building. 9 wells discovered in the surrounding area. 5 still had water. The water system connected to underground reservoirs, then to tunnels, then to the Basilica cistern, 150 meters away, part of Constantinople's massive water infrastructure. In 2005, excavations traced dyed water through the drains, trying to map where everything flows. The paths extended beyond what they could measure, disappearing into blocked passages, sealed sections. That's when they realized the accessible tunnels are only part of the network. Much more exists, still buried, still blocked. But then they find the tombs. First discovery, the Hippodrome. 3-room underground tomb, 4 meters below the northeast facade. 4th century AD, predating Hagia Sophia by 200 years. This tomb is older than any structure in the area. 2-tone marble flooring, distinctive architecture. It was flooded with 4 tons of mud and sediment, documented in 1946 by Muzaffar Ramazanoglu, former museum director, then ignored for 74 years. The 2020 cleanup finally cleared it. Then, underwater investigations, burial of St. Antinagos. 13th century, identified. Possible tomb of Patriarch Athanasius, found. Multiple burial chambers attributed to Byzantine clergy. The cleaning process reveals more passages that don't make structural sense, tunnels that dead end into sealed walls, not collapsed, not filled with debris, deliberately bricked up, plastered over, hidden. Professor Diker's team uses ground-penetrating radar. The scans show voids, empty spaces behind sealed walls, chambers that weren't built for water or ventilation, rooms with no apparent architectural purpose, except one, storage. The question becomes, who else is down there, and what else? Because here's what archaeologists aren't saying publicly. Byzantine tradition held that sacred objects were hidden during invasions. After 1204, when the Greeks retook Constantinople in 1261, they had a problem. The Crusaders had stolen everything. But some survivors claimed not everything was taken. Some relics were hidden before the Crusaders arrived, sealed in underground chambers. The tunnels beneath Hagia Sophia connect to spaces that haven't been explored. Professor Diker mentions sealed rooms previously undocumented. Ground-penetrating radar shows structural anomalies, empty spaces, chambers. The government's official statement, these were for ventilation and storage, but historians point out something else. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, built 326-330 AD, same era as original Hagia Sophia, has extensive underground chambers. Old St. Peter's in Rome, also built in the 4th century. Same thing. Why would Hagia Sophia's architects exclude such an essential feature? They wouldn't. The question isn't whether underground chambers exist. The question is, what's in them? Here's where it gets complicated. During Byzantine rule, Hagia Sophia housed an extraordinary collection. Not just the relics, stolen in 1204, other items, equally sacred. Emperor Heraclius brought more relics from Jerusalem in 629 AD after defeating the Persians. The Holy Sponge, additional cross fragments, the Holy Lance. Again. These were displayed in Hagia Sophia and the Church of the Virgin of Pharos in the Imperial Palace. Complex ceremonies moved relics between buildings, processions, public veneration. On Easter, 100,000 people would stream through Hagia Sophia to see them. The cathedral also had pieces of the stone from Jesus' tomb, the burial cloth, possibly the shroud, the table from the Last Supper, Moses' rod, the crown of Emperor Constantine, 30 smaller crowns hanging from the altar ciborium. In 1396, an inventory listed 180 objects and luxury textiles in Hagia Sophia's treasury, adorned with pearls and precious stones. Where did it all go? 1204. Accounts are detailed. We know what the Crusaders took, but the inventories don't match. Some items on the 1396 list weren't mentioned in 1204 Crusader accounts, meaning either they were hidden before 1204 and recovered later, they're still hidden, or they were destroyed and never recorded. Orthodox tradition says Byzantine officials saw the Crusaders coming. They had warning. Weeks of fires before the walls fell. Time to hide the most sacred relics. Where would you hide them? Underground, in chambers designed during Justinian's original construction, connected by tunnels for access during emergencies. And when the Greeks retook the city in 1261, would they publicize recovering those relics, or keep them secret, hidden from the next invader? Because another invasion died come, the Ottomans, 1453. May 29th, 1453. Sultan Mehmed II breaches Constantinople's walls after a 53-day siege. Terrified citizens flee to Hagia Sophia. Thousands pack inside, believing ancient prophecy. An angel would descend from heaven to save them before the church fell. No angel came. Ottoman soldiers entered. The doors were barred from inside. They hacked through, found thousands of refugees, praying, singing hymns. The soldiers took them as slaves, stripped remaining decorations from the church. But Mehmed II made a crucial decision. He didn't destroy Hagia Sophia. He converted it into a mosque. His first Friday prayer there was June 1st, 1453. Added wooden minarets, covered some mosaics with plaster, but many mosaics remained visible for centuries. The upper gallery mosaics stayed uncovered until the 1700s. Why? Hagia Sophia was the Sultan's personal property, not a public mosque. You needed special permission to enter. Areas like the galleries went decades closed to the public. This actually protected the building. Islamic zealots wanted the Christian imagery destroyed, but it belonged to the Sultan. They couldn't touch it without his permission. Still, things disappeared. Marble columns removed, reused in new mosques, marble revetment stripped from walls, taken elsewhere. The ground level rose dramatically from accumulated debris and soil. Hagia Irene Church next door sank deep into the earth. And underground? Nobody knows what happened to the sealed chambers in 1453. Were they opened, looted, explored? Or did the Ottomans leave them sealed and respecting the structure? For 482 years, until 1935, Hagia Sophia functioned as a mosque. No archaeological excavations, no underground exploration. Now, here's the sensitive part. The Turkish government is opening these tunnels for tourism. Cultural heritage? Historical value. New archaeological findings. But they are being careful about what they say, because anything they find down there triggers international controversy. If they find Christian relics, Orthodox Greeks will demand their return. If they find evidence of treasure chambers, the question becomes, what happened to the contents? Were they looted in 1453? Are they still there? And if items are still there, who do they belong to? Turkey controls the site, but Greece claims Byzantine cultural heritage. The Orthodox Church says sacred Christian relics belong to Christianity. UNESCO's position? It's a World Heritage Site, belongs to humanity. So the cleaning project proceeds slowly, carefully. Professor Dijker's statements are measured. This will shed light on Istanbul's history, enhance preservation and climate control, allow the public to see centuries-old beauty. Notice what he doesn't say. He doesn't mention finding anything specific, no relics, no treasures, no sealed chambers with contents intact, just empty tunnels, tombs with bones, infrastructure spaces. But journalists who've entered the tunnels report something interesting. Some passages remain blocked, not by debris, by sealed walls, deliberate construction. Professor Dijker says more areas have never been explored closed, for centuries or forgotten under sediments. Forgotten? Or sealed intentionally? The project aims to open portions to the public, not all of it, selected sections. Visitor access will be carefully managed with controlled entry, likely reservation systems to prevent overcrowding, or to control what visitors see. Here's what we know for certain. 1935-1939. German excavations uncovered earlier church remains, created open-air museum. World War II stopped further work. 1946, three-room tomb discovered, documented, and then ignored. 2005 to 2009, limited excavations, documentary filmed, revealed tunnel connections. 2020, major cleanup begins after reconversion to mosque. 2020-2025, 668 meters of tunnels mapped, multiple tombs identified, sealed chambers detected. Future, selected areas opening for tourism. What we don't know, what's in the sealed chambers, whether any pre-1204 relics survived underground, what the ground-penetrating radar really shows, why some passages remain deliberately blocked. Urban legends claim the tunnels extend to Maiden's Tower and Prince's Islands. Experts dismiss this as fanciful tales, but they confirm the tunnels connect to the Great Palace Complex, the Basilica Cistern, a vast underground network beneath old Constantinople, much of it unmapped, unexplored. Here's the parallel. Remember the Temple Mount in Jerusalem? Similar situation. Underground chambers beneath the most controversial religious site. Jewish tradition says treasures are hidden there. Muslim authorities refuse excavation. Israeli government can't risk the political fallout, so the chambers remain sealed. Archaeological curiosity versus religious sensitivity versus political reality. Hagia Sophia is the same. 3 religions, 1,600 years of history. Treasures stolen, hidden, lost. What's down there could rewrite our understanding of Byzantine history, or trigger conflicts that make today's tensions look mild. So they clean the tunnels, open sections for tourists, and stay very, very careful about what they announce. The Fourth Crusade's impact still echoes. In 1438, a Byzantine delegation visited Venice for church negotiations. They toured St. Mark's Basilica, saw their stolen treasures on display. One account describes their reaction. They looked at the divine icons, the golden shrine, the precious stones, objects made from the purest gold. Their objects, their relics, their history, sitting in a Venetian cathedral. Imagine that moment, standing in an enemy city, looking at what was stolen from your civilization, and knowing you'll never get it back. Today, those objects are still there. The bronze horses, the icons, the reliquaries. Venice doesn't return stolen property, neither does Paris or Rome. Cultural heritage, they call it now. The Crusaders called it God's will. The Byzantines called it theft. What would the Byzantines call what's happening now? Hagia Sophia, their greatest church, converted back to a mosque. Archaeological discoveries controlled by a government with its own agenda. Any findings potentially used for political purposes. The Greeks can protest, UNESCO can object, but Turkey controls the site, and Turkey decides what gets announced. So here's my question for you. Should archaeologists keep excavating beneath Hagia Sophia, use the ground-penetrating radar, map every sealed chamber, open every blocked passage, see what's really down there? Or is this one discovery better left untouched? Some findings might be too dangerous, too controversial. What if they find proof that relics survived 1204? Still hidden underground? Who claims them? Turkey? Greece? The Orthodox Church? Or what if they find evidence those relics were looted in 1453? Does that start another historical grievance? More demands for restitution? What if the sealed chambers contain nothing? Empty rooms? Cleared centuries ago? Would that end the mystery? Or just fuel more theories? Here's the reality. Whatever they find down there will be controversial. If they find Christian relics, it raises questions about a mosque holding Christian sacred objects. If they find evidence of treasure, it raises questions about what happened to it. If they find nothing, people won't believe them. So maybe, just maybe, some excavations shouldn't happen. Some historical mysteries serve humanity better, unsolved. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should they explore everything beneath Hagia Sophia, or leave some chambers sealed? And if you're fascinated by archaeological discoveries that governments don't want publicized, hit that subscribe button. We're covering more findings where what archaeologists discover creates political and religious controversy. What should we investigate next? Let me know. Thanks for watching. And remember, 600 extate meters of tunnels have been cleaned, but nobody's saying what they found inside them.